Welcome to the Online Meditation Center. So, I received a question, and the question was posted on the video Awareness is Your Eternal Throne, where I talk about awareness, which is that fundamental essence of what you are, that identityless existence, consciousness, which is watching out from your eyes right now. And the question goes as follows. Is identification the main problem? Especially identification with the voice in my head / thoughts? So the practice of just observing the voice, thoughts, body would be sufficient. And then somehow the timeless aware seer would reveal itself. Is that right? And he continues, the awareness is basically already found. It is just seemingly lost or covered up by identification. The only solution is to remove identification by gradually becoming an observer of everything, right? And yes, this is basically right. Let's go through each segment of the question. Is identification the main problem? And all questions like this will always be yes, but, because anything can be a problem and anything can be a solution, depending on where in your journey you are. Fundamentally, yes, identification is a problem. But I can still see that at one certain point on a spiritual seeker's search for the truth, then identification might actually be a driving factor which helps the seeker to remain focused and motivated even to dig deeper, because you identify as a seeker of truth, and this has become your identity. I must find truth. Surely you will have a deep-seated yearning to know what the truth is. But living in a world where most people would simply, ogle you or think you're ridiculous if you're searching for the truth, or you're quote-unquote trying to become enlightened, then having a solid identity, a temporary solid identity of being someone searching for the truth might be beneficial, So at a certain point in your search, identification might be very good. But once you are beyond that, and you have started to dig so deep into reality that identifying with anything will simply keep you separated from yourself, from what you are, then from that point on, yes, identification, the process or the automatic kind of need that the ego or mind has to cling to things and identify with things or ideas or experiences or thoughts are indeed the main challenge and the main separator from truth. So you keep on saying, is identification the main problem? Especially identification with the voice in my head and or thoughts. So the practice of just observing the voice, thoughts, body would be sufficient. And then somehow the timeless aware seer would reveal itself. Is that right? Again, it's difficult to say yes, but I'll still say yes. Because identifying happens so automatically that it will first take the effort to first become aware of the fact that the mind automatically grabs onto anything and say that this is me or this is not me. I like that. I do not like that. I do not like this. I like that. It doesn't matter whether it's outside of you or inside of you. This tendency to identify happens spontaneously. Because the experience we're having is so, it seems so real. And the mind is fearful because the mind is not the complete package. The mind believes itself to be the king of the throne, you could say. But the mind is but a servant. So because of this, the mind has a lack of substance. I say that awareness is the only solid thing in existence. Being existence, awareness is the only thing that actually exists. While all experiences and all things can only exist in an experience because you experience things. And all things, all experience is temporary. It appears within awareness. And so the mind itself appears to awareness. The mind itself is inherently flawed, inherently imperfect. And this imperfection creates a deep-seated fear which drives its search for safety. And the mind doesn't exist as its own entity. The only life it gets is from awareness, utilizing it. The mind is merely a tool. But since awareness forgets itself, it begins to believe that it is this tool, thereby inheriting or creating the experience of lack. And in this spawns the need to identify. Because if you can say, I am that thing, or I am not this thing, then it's a temporary safety is created. The feel of being whole. Even though it just lasts for a short little while, it feels good. And so it clings on to anything. Everything gets sticky. And of course, this is a lot bigger subject than what is asked of here. But what you have to do, you as awareness, in order to disentangle yourself from the habit of draping yourself in the mind's insecurities, in the mind's lack of substance, is to first observe. And it's what you say, right? The only solution is to remove identification by gradually becoming an observer of everything. So you observe both external and internal phenomena arising. And by dispassionately witnessing anything that's happening inside your experience, whether mental, physical, even spiritual, if you can experience it as something, you experience thoughts, sounds in the mind, pictures and images in the mind. You experience colors, sounds, tactile sensations. You see it, you witness it. Anything you can witness, you are already beyond. If you can see it and put your finger to it, metaphorically speaking, and say, I see my thoughts, that means you are not those thoughts. They appear within you. And then by seeing these things being not you, you witness the movements of your mind as external phenomena. It means you are not the mind. You are prior to the mind. And by witnessing this for an unknown amount of time, you could say, until it is really truly seen on a deep being level, that none of these passing, fleeting, ephemeral things are me. Whatever I am, I cannot put my finger on it and point to it and say, that's me. Because if I try to point a finger at myself, it simply evaporates into nothingness. And so slowly, as you in meditation and your daily life become more and more aware of all these external things, and that you are in fact none of them, that you are the only thing that is always present, whatever that thing may be, it is the witness. It's the watcher of all of these things. A nameless, featureless, ageless nothing. Then slowly, as you get more rooted in that, you will disentangle yourself more and more from the mind. The mind will still be functional and you can still use the mind, but you won't confuse yourself as the mind. Hence, the inherent lack that the mind feels, or that you feel when you're kind of trapped in the mind, will loosen. And so your fear disappears. And with the fear, the automatic need to identify will disappear with it. Because you see that anything you could fear isn't you. It's not you, and it's not real. It's not fundamentally real. And you are not a little thing that can die. You watch your thoughts, you watch the physical reality, you watch your body, you watch all of these things. None of them will last. But the watcher itself doesn't exist in time at all. So it's not affected by time. It is timeless. The more you watch, the deeper you put your roots, metaphorically speaking, into the deepness of the present moment, which is timeless. And here you will realize sooner or later that whatever you are cannot die. But what you are is not something you can identify with, because it is nothing. Any identification will be an attribute, a characteristic with something or someone. But what you are is not that man or woman who has lived this life and experienced that and that and that, and has a brother or a sister, a father or a mother, and owns a house and a car and have an education. All of those things are attributes connected to this character. But the watcher of this character is not itself the character. It is forever and always beyond the character. The character exists in time. It's a part of the moving colors comprising our experience. But this witness does not experience time. It witnesses time as well. So yes, being an observer will eventually remove identification, which then will, as you say, quote unquote, somehow reveal the quote unquote timeless aware seer, which is this awareness. But, and that should also be said, that before identification disappears entirely, there is one last identity that might grab you by the throat, so to speak. And that's the identity of the one who is identityless. I am the one who do not identify with anything. That's how cool I am. Right? But at this point, you will already be so far along that you will see that those thoughts and that sense of an identity also simply arise to that which witnesses. Those are themselves fleeting phenomena on the eternally blue sky. Just another cloud. Just another drop of rain. But it's a subtle one. So I would say, while watching, while witnessing. Remain centered in yourself. Whatever that self may be, selfless self, that centerless center. It's just a way of speaking. But remain aware of the fact that you exist. Don't get hung up on the you part, that you exist. That existence is existing right now. So while witnessing, be simultaneously aware of your own existence. So you could say, be consciously self-aware, source-aware. Maybe that's better, because source is just existence. Source is just life. So be source-aware while witnessing every phenomena arising outside, inside, doesn't matter. Anything you can put your finger to and say, I see that. While witnessing all of that, be source aware. Hope that was helpful. Have a great day.